Today I'm interviewing trumpeter and brass instructor Ben McDonald. Now, my brother and I studied with Ben my first couple of years of undergrad, and Ben has a sound concept that's so fundamental to brass playing that has to do with resonance and ease of playing. So I think a lot of you out there, whether it's trombone or trumpet, any brass instrument, even wind instrument, can really benefit from this interview. He received his music degree from the University of Kentucky in Lexington. Most notably, he studied with Vincent DiMartino and the great legendary Bill Fielder, also known as Prof. As a trumpeter, he's performed with the Oregon Symphony, the Oregon Ballet, the Seattle Symphony, and the Seattle Opera. He's also performed and toured with Esperanza Spalding. Currently, he's a middle school and choir director and a freelance trumpeter in the Olympia area, but he's also very active along the Northwest coast. And he's also a husband to his wife Kate and a father of three, Madison, Sayer, and CL. Let's get started with the interview. Hey Ben, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Peter?
Good, good. Long time no see. It's been how many years now since I was taking some
Oh
lessons from
man,
you? Mid
15?
2000s.
Yeah, 15,
It's so
20, 50, almost a long time. Wow. I'm feeling old, but that's okay.
it's all right, man. You look
Yeah.
great. So
Oh, thank you, man. Thank
so
you.
let's, I guess, jump right into the interview.
Sure.
Okay, so the first question is, how did you first get into music?
So my background is my mom was an opera singer. She grew up singing opera, and she sang in the church as well.
Wow. Okay.
So I grew up listening to her singing like La Boheme, La Traviata,
Mm,
uh, singing spirituals. Um, she studied. She went to Knoxville College, back in South, and I used to follow her to her rehearsals, man, and um, I just enjoyed that process. That's how I was introduced to being a musician, is watching my mom, and she's also a teacher and a performer. So
wow.
that's how I got into it. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, it sounds like quite a diverse background, at least in terms of musical, what do you call it? Musical awareness.
Yeah,
So,
she was brilliant. She would really. I'm not just saying that because she's my mom, but she had such a resonance and liquidness to her sound, and I just loved how she sounded. So that's how I got into it. I said I don't want to do that, but I couldn't really sing all that well. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Wow, thanks for
yeah,
sharing that, Ben.
yeah, no problem.
Up next, we have question number 2. Why did you choose the trumpet?
Well, that's interesting. Um, I didn't choose trumpet first. You don't know this. I got a cow horn. I don't know if you know about these things, or cow horn, from a really good family friend. His name Alvira Both, and she was a choral master in Anchorage, Alaska. And we went to see her family in Wyoming one year, and she had this red cow horn, and it's for calling the cows.
Hmm.
So she showed me how to just play it, and I played it, and I loved this thing. I loved it. I loved it. So I would walk around the house, and I'd be just honking on this thing. It it was loud, and I enjoyed it. I didn't know it was, how much it, as my parents said, it drove us crazy. But it kind of, that's what I love playing this thing, and I just like making sounds on it. And
Mhm.
it walked around, and one day it disappeared,
Hmm.
and I was like, "What happened to my?" And my dad goes, "Oh, I don't know. Something happened to it. We don't know." Okay, so we were just in that process. I said, "Well, I think I'm going to join the band." And what happened was, Mr. Blake, my first elementary band teacher, Curtis Blake,
Mhm.
was a French horn player. And he said, because he knew my mom, he said, "Listen, I think Ben should play the French horn."
Hmm.
So I didn't know any better. They didn't do demonstrations back then. You just got the horn you got.
Yep.
So I walked up to Mr. Blake, and he goes, "Ben, you're going to play French horn." I said, "Okay." So I played the French horn. It was a brass instrument. It had keys. He showed me how to play it. I could play all the first 6 pages in the, I think it was Ed Sueda, but I'm not really sure. It was something like that. But it was like the first 6 pages, and I could play it. It was fun.
Oh wow.
And then one day I kind of said, Mr. Blake, can can you play jazz on this thing? He looked at me, goes, he shook his head, no. And that ended my French horn career. And I picked up trumpet. So that's how it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think there are maybe a handful of jazz French horners out there, but it probably because the valves are rotary instead of I don't know what you call them for trumpet or for euphonium.
Yeah, piston versus rotor. Yeah,
Piston.
but yeah. And there are jazz trumpet players, jazz French horn players out there, but it wasn't Miles, it wasn't Clifford, it wasn't Pops,
Yep.
Louis Armstrong.
This stuff
My
you grew up
dad,
listening to.
yeah,
Yeah.
my dad was like, he was a real jazz aficionado, man. He was like, and I got the, and I said, that sound doesn't sound like this sound. Something's not quite right here. So it was kind of funny.
Amazing, man. Wow.
Yeah,
On to the next question. We got a question
sure.
number 3. It's what trumpeter or musician has had the greatest impact on your playing?
Well, that goes back to my mom, 100%. Her tonal concept is kind of like what's in my head. So that has influenced everything that I play and how I play. It's kind of having an imprint of a language on you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a sound concept that is, I'd say, pretty much perfect in her case, and it's just it's just amazing. So that initial concept of sound came from her. The trumpet playing came from Louis Armstrong and Bud Herseth, which
Mm-hmm.
my mom, being a vocal teacher, she knew what I needed to listen to at an early age. They
Wow.
absolutely knew that. So, and that's kind of set me up for a lot of positive things,
Yeah.
in my life as a trumpet player, because it's about the sound,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
about the sound, 100%. So I've had that burning in my ear for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's a very powerful roots and beginnings there, Ben.
yeah. Great parents, man.
Okay, so on to the next question. Question number
Sure.
4. So, in terms of your career, could you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now?
Well, I started off. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. If you don't know that, and I had opportunities to do a lot of things at a very young age that most kids probably wouldn't have the opportunity to do, because of the oil revenue that was in Alaska, and there was a lot of
Hmm.
desire to have a top-notch orchestra and a wonderful opera scene. The Alaska Chamber Singers. I can't remember the exact word, but what it was back then. But there's a lot of singing going on, and I had an opportunity to work with Charles Dumonet, was the first conductor with the Anchorage Symphony, and then I got to work with Isaiah Jackson, and then I also had a conductor by the name of Frank Pinkerton.
Mhm.
So I had all these people in my life when I was young that they pushed you a little bit to do some pretty amazing things. They pushed you. I got to play in the La Boheme, the band parts with a guy named Stefan Minda.
Hmm.
Stefan Minda is from Germany, and so I just got to be involved in a lot of different kind of things. Stefan was the first guy who showed me how to truly play a Viennese waltz, truly play it
Hmm.
with the way he sang it. And he cussed in German a lot, and he didn't know that our teacher spoke German, but he was amazing. He was an amazing, amazing inductor. So through my life and how I grew up, I was exposed to a lot of great things. Got to go, overseas and play in the American Youth Symphony and Chorus, principal trumpet of that, and that's a whole nother story. We'll go on some time, but
Yeah,
I got afforded opportunity to do some really great things. So it's been wonderful. So how's that transpire is through that I decided to pursue education in music, and because my mom was a music teacher, and I saw that as what I wanted to do, but I also like to perform like she did. So
yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. So that's where I am now. I'm educating and performing. So
That's great.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
On to question number 5. What's it like studying with Vincent DiMartino and Bill Fielder?
Wow. So two incredibly gifted in awe of trumpet players. That's the first thing. And I sucked. I mean, truly, with Vince, I was like, in that class, you had Al Hood, you had Brad Good, you had David Welsh, who just graduated before me. Now, these guys, he had some just fantastic trumpet players. Rex Richardson, I think, was a graduate student there at that time. And you had some really great, great trumpet players, man. And I'm a kid from Alaska, and I'm like, I was listening to these guys. I suck. And I had to work on my stuff because, I was kind of coming at it from an instinctual point, which I wasn't really, my concept and tonality wasn't, and fundamentals wasn't really developed, but I had the sound. I knew what I wanted to do, but it was laboriously hard work. So when I studied with Vince, he gave me a routine. He showed me this is what you need to be able to do. And the Soxa book, I laugh about it now because I didn't really have to transpose a lot when I was in Alaska because they wrote out everything. And so it was a lot of baptism by fire at that situation. So transposition, number one thing that I learned from Vince. Versatility in your playing, that Vince could play anything. And I've seen him do it. Like Vince would be playing lead, like jazz all day long, and then turn around and play like a piccolo piece or a beautiful something on E flat. And it was you never knew what he was going to do.
Wow.
And it just was amazing, man. It's like, this cat was like, it's Vince DiMartino. Come on. I mean, if you know anything about trumpet playing, you know it's Vinny. It's like, hey, McDonald, you suck. Go practice. That's what it was. And that was a major thing. A lot of people came through there. Alan Mazzuti came through, and Brian Stripling came through, and these guys, you just got to see the best of the best come through there. And his studio was 18 trumpet players, trumpet, and some of a lot of education. But he made sure, he said, if you can't play, you can't teach your your students to play.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. He was really into that, man. And I thank him, every day for what he instilled. And when I left school, I graduated with my education degree, but it was kind of an education of life and an education of music. And so that was wonderful. That was a wonderful experience. And then from that, I just kept, utilizing and learning and working through the things he taught me. And then I hit not a wall, but I just said, this is too hard. My trumpet playing, this is too hard, because there were people that I saw, like Herseth. You see videos of Herseth and Pops, and you see Winton, and you list like, man, what is it why does it look so easy? Duckchester, why does it sound so fluid and effortless? I could make it happen, but there was so much work that I had to do to get there, and so much manipulation of of all the fundamental things to make it happen. And so I didn't have an answer to that, but I knew I needed to figure it out. And here's what happened. I moved a lot, and I moved to Portland. And then I got a chance to meet a trumpet maker, Dave Monette, who's a great guy. But he had these brass clinics, and he used to bring up all the great trumpet players. Terrence Blanchard was there. All these great players were there. So what happened was, I was watching this video, Wynton Marsalis and Kathleen Battles. And I saw this video, and there's this one part where Wynton was having some issues, and I don't know what happened. He never has issues, but the piccolo wasn't responding the way it was. You know what I'm saying? And then I see this guy in the background. Wynton's talking to him, and I'm like, it says, now if Wynton needs to call somebody for help, and he calls this guy, who is this guy? And make a long story short, one of my friends that I met in Portland, Thera Memory, knew Prof, and Prof knew Thera, and Terrence Blanchard in a mouthpiece testing room called Prof up on the phone and said, hey, Prof, here's a guy I want you to meet. And that's when it started. And that's when when a
Wow.
lot of stuff was explained of what what I was doing wrong and how to fix it, man. That changed that changed a lot of stuff. Made life much easier, and it made my teaching more effective too.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and Prof, once again, he's versatile. He can play classical and he can play jazz, and his jazz playing and his classical playing are at the highest level. And he is a real jazz trumpet player, and he is a real classical trumpet player. There's some things that I've heard in some recordings, which I wish I had a copy of, but it's easily one of the top 5 trumpet players that I've heard in my lifetime. Some of the stuff, early stuff that he's played and performed.
Hmm.
So, and he studied with Herseth and Chikowitz for a very long time, 40 years. He
Wow.
studied with those two gentlemen, yeah, and until their passing. And then there's so much that I can say about his life, but there's a refinement that happened with him that I can say that truly changed my direction and purpose in playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was aware, but he made me more aware of what I had to do to make it
Mm.
work better for me. Yeah, more consistency, more the fundamentals. How he taught the fundamentals were truly. It just made my life easier. Till this day, I'm still peeling the onion, man. It's beautiful. I love it. I'm serious. It's
Exactly.
never
Yeah.
you can never get it perfect, but you can always make it better. You know, never satisfied, always gratified.
That's great because I had never heard that side of the story. I know you were talking about you study with Prof, this and that, one of his last students, but I had never heard how exactly you got to study with Prof. So that's really revealing and
Yeah,
nice to hear
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
anecdote.
yeah, yeah. And it's a lot because when you have people who understand fundamentals and they understand that yes, you're doing some things right, but it could be better, and you recognize that, and you know that this is what you need to do, and they open that door for me, man. So I owe a lot to Terrence for making the phone call and for Thera for introducing me and just making that happen. And they
Hmm.
didn't have to do that, but they did that for me, and I will never forget what they did. Never. So greatly appreciate. And then there's Winton, who was like for doing that video, just having Prof. I know Prof was in his life at an early age,
Hmm.
and Prof was just revered Winton. That's of course,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just a beautiful thing when you see it. Yeah, yeah. So you have two people that come at it pretty much the same way, you know, because of Prof's vision problems. He really couldn't see, he really couldn't see all that great. So that changed a lot of his direction. But his jazz playing was amazing. He played giant steps to a backing track one time in my house, Peter. It was like I couldn't say anything. I was like, it was the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life, man. And then he just like started playing Strauss like immediately after that. It's
Wow.
like just like having Herseth and Chikowitz sitting next to you playing just what he played and how he just unleashed. You have to if you ever get a chance to hear somebody play like that, it
Mm.
really lets you know, okay, I'm studying with the right person. And the events is the same way. When you walk into up this studio, he had a studio up in the arts building in the large auditorium up the
Mhm.
flight of stairs, and you walk in there and he's playing like A's and double C's just all day long. It's like, and it's not perfect, but it sounds perfect to me. And I can never play that. Then I could never do that. And to listen to how he approached the instrument so effortlessly and musically, and just his own signature on how he played is everything he's ever done. It's just great. I was exposed to some of the greatest people in the world. So I really thank God for that, man. That's just a beautiful thing for me. I just like, wow, just to have that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So that's what it's like studying with them. You're in awe 24/7, and you're like, man, and you always think, man, I suck. I suck so bad. It's like, but that just motivates you to try harder and to do better. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at, still motivated to try harder and do better. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, Ben, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing.
Oh man, anytime.
So we're on to question number 6 now.
Okay.
Okay, question number 6. What was the biggest obstacle you have had to overcome?
The biggest obstacle I've had to overcome is to have more faith in myself than people have in me. And what I mean by that is, because of my background and where I come from, Alaska, people see that like, wow, you've never been exposed. And so
Hmm.
you really don't, I've had to overcome a lot and be much better than you're given credit for. Does that make sense what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And so what's been interesting is when I auditioned for the Oregon Symphony, is James Priest was the conductor then,
Hmm.
and James is African American conductor.
Hmm.
So he didn't pick us, but he had a say in some of the stuff that was going on. And when you see somebody up there and you want to be a part of something like that, just practice really hard and did an open audition and got on the list to sub with the Oregon Symphony. And that helped me a lot. That really gave me a, like, okay, I'm doing what I need to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and it's even that's a learning curve. Because I was in the midst of when I was still studying with Prof as well. So it's overcoming what limitations people might put on you just because of your background.
Mhm.
So that was huge. That was huge. And come from an education background, not a performance background.
Yeah.
That was another thing. So that's pretty much it.
Wow. I guess there's a lot of students out there that have their own things that they kind of have to overcome, whether it's backgrounds, what imposter syndrome, right? You feel like no matter how good you get, sometimes I mean, that's part of being an artist, I think, too. You feel like
Yeah.
you're not really doing what you should be doing. You feel like a fraud, maybe sometimes. All sorts of things that people have to overcome. So,
Yeah. Early, let's say not early, when I lived in Alaska, I flew down to Chicago, and I was introduced to Dave Monette at an kind of early age. And Bud Herseth came into the studio, into
hmm.
Dave's studio, and I got a chance to meet him.
Wow.
And within 5 minutes, he just basically, and I look back on that interaction. This is a man who saw something. He heard me play a little bit. He saw something, and he kind of goes, you need to get this. And he started articulating the Nightingale, and he did some other things. He was just articulating the sound, and he played right next to me. You need to get this sound. And he asked me who I was studying with. It was Vince DiMartino at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I was in awe because I get to meet Bud Herseth. But when people see something in you and they just show a little bit of interest, that's why I love teaching. It can change someone's life.
Yeah.
And because of that interaction, I I really thought, I want to go as far as I can. And that changed a lot for me. So I hope that answers, kind of gives a,
Yeah, it does.
answer that question a little bit better. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
believe
thanks.
in people. Yeah.
Believe in people. Thanks, Ben. I
Yeah.
think a lot of our viewers out there can use that information, that advice. So, thank you.
Yeah. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. And hopefully, because you believe in yourself, you can't question and play a brass instrument. You can never ask questions. You have to make statements. And if you don't believe in yourself, no matter what happens, no matter what happens, your belief in yourself will carry you through. The moment you doubt is when things go haywire. Okay. All right. So yeah. So
Wow.
and so people, if you have this camaraderie, of musicians around you that believe in you, that energy can carry you a long way.
Hmm.
Not that it needs to, but it makes you buoyant, and it makes you want to do better and grow. And that's just a fueling environment for a lot of things in people's lives. So classical musicians have a tendency to be reserved about that, more so than jazz musicians.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a huge thing. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I had a yeah. Go ahead.
I can really see that. It's just the level of perfection you have to have. Seemingly everything has to be maybe almost robotic or mechanic, but there's another sense if you have, like you said, those fundamentals down, then you can really say something. But
Yeah,
it's a big part of it is a mental game, right?
it is a very much a mental game. It really is. And it starts in middle school or elementary school, believe it or not. When you,
Hmm.
as a teacher, you really have to build kids' confidence, and it makes a difference if you show them fundamentally how to produce a sound that's easy, that you can play high, low, fast, slow, loud, soft, with clarity and clear articulations, and be very focused. It's the sky's the limit after that.
Yeah.
So once they have those fundamentals, it really does change everything. Yeah. So
Nice, Ben.
believe in
Thanks for sharing.
yourself. Yeah. No.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of your students and people in your circles are very lucky to have you. So I
Thank you,
know
man.
my
Yeah.
brother and
Thank
I
you.
are. So
Wow. I love you guys. You guys are great. You're easy students because you wanted to learn. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, man.
yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Question number 7. What is one of the best pieces of advice you have ever received?
Trumpet playing is trumpet playing. It doesn't matter what kind of trumpet it is. If you're a fundamental player, you got to understand, back in the day, the classical trumpet players used to play in big bands. They did all kinds of different styles of playing, and then it changed. And you have to be versatile. You have to be able to play anything, any kind of style. Piccolo trumpet, E flat. You got to be able to play salsa. You got to be able to play big band. You got to be able to play chamber music. You got to be able to do absolutely everything,
Mhm.
because you never know what kind of call you're going to get. And the more styles you're aware of and can play, and the better your fundamentals are, you can make that come off really, really well.
Yeah.
And it just opens a lot of doors. It really does open a lot of doors. It doesn't pigeonhole you as being one type of player. It allows you to do a lot of different things. So that's the greatest advice I've ever get, and it's been demonstrated by Vinny and by Prof. And Winton is the epitome of that too. And it's like, you see it, and well, there's a lot of great trumpet players that can do both, that you don't know that can do both, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, yeah,
Nice. Thanks for sharing, Ben.
yeah.
Okay, we're on to question number 8, and
Okay.
it's how do you balance family life and career life?
I gotta go back to my mom and dad. My mom was a really gifted singer, and she had an opportunity to travel with Robert Shaw. I don't know if you know who that is, a famous choral singer, choral
Mm.
director, as part of a soloist. And she had to make a decision. She also sang with the Houston Symphony. She sang at Carnegie Hall. She's done some pretty amazing things. Ken Totenleder, which she sang with Houston, and Brahms Rhapsody with another group. I think it was Anchor Symphony and someone else. I don't remember exactly who. But she balanced that with having 3 kids at the time and teaching. So it was like, I saw what could be, but I can tell you where it really made a difference for me was the family came first with her. If we needed something, she was there. If we had a performance, she was there, unless she had something she had to do, or my
Mhm.
dad was there. So
Yeah.
that's the main thing, is that you can carve a niche out, but if you have kids, you have to balance against their needs. Now, if that's the way you make money, and that's your livelihood, you have to carve that time out, and you have to make it work. And that's why it's so important just to have balance in your family life first, and then your your practicing and your career are all, it's challenging, but it can be done. And I've done it, but it's challenging.
Hmm.
And and people don't give credit to the spouses, but the spouses have a lot to do with keeping your life in order. My wife ran my book for a long time. She helped me keep my life in order and say, hey, you got to be here, but you got to pick the kids up at this time. You got to take them to this soccer game. Your daughter has to go horseback riding at this time, and you got to drive, so you got a rehearsal here after that. So she helped plan out a lot of things that, made my life easier, and it just takes one more thing so I can focus on being a dad and a musician. So she helped me out a lot. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't be where I'm just telling you, man, I wouldn't be doing what I do if she didn't help, make sure that the balance was there, and the kids, they needed to see me when I was traveling, driving back and forth between Seattle and Portland, and just like, man, it's wow. So it was great. I owe a lot, but it's a challenge, but you can do it. If you want to do it, you'll figure out a way,
Nice.
and that's it. You just figure it out. So, yeah.
Nice, Ben. Thanks. What projects are you currently working on?
Well, with the COVID happening, I have been going back to basics like everybody else, I think, and really working on producing the most effortless sound I can with the greatest efficiency, and just making sure my oral concept is locked and loaded if whatever I decide to play. So I've been working on a lot of Vacchiano advanced studies for trumpet. I don't know if you know about that. And they're working on range, not really range, but just stamp book, things like that. Working on the Basics Plus book. If you don't know about that book, I highly recommend it if you're into fundamentals. It's one of the best books I've ever seen written about that. And it's very logical. So that's what I'm currently working on. And doing a lot of playing, just playing in general, a lot of, solo repertoire, working on, just a lot of different things, just playing, and still teaching, but a lot of playing. Yeah. So
nice. Thanks, Ben.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so we're on to the final question. Question number 10. If you had to leave musicians with only one piece of advice, what would it be?
Never stop learning. Never stop learning. Be open. Just be open to new information if it helps you, and always try to peel the onion every day a little bit more, and not being overly critical, but just if you want to make it your life as a musician, you got to be positive. You got to have a positive attitude. You have to be a contributor to the musical scene you're involved in. Be a colleague in a lot of different ways, and build a community of people that look after one another. That's important, because a helping hand is a helping hand. Everybody's trying to pull everybody up.
Yeah.
And you can feel that in the music too. When you have that, you can feel it. When people like each other and they're sitting next to each other and they're playing, it changes everything, man. It really changes everything. And you can feel that, and you can hear it too. So people think they're hiding. If you don't like somebody, you can't hide because it comes out of the horn. The trumpet is a mirror of the mind. Any brass instrument is a mirror of the mind, and you can hear that kind of stuff. And so that's what I'd like to say. If I had to give one piece of advice, be positive and pull the next guy up. Never stop learning. That's fundamental stuff.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I think if a lot of you don't know out there, that's a prophism there, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Sound is
never stop. Right? Exactly. Yep. There's huge. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of those, man. It's like there's so many things he's always rattling in the back of my head, in a positive way. You understand? It's always positive. It's always about making you sound better. But yeah, that's our prophisms. Definitely. Yeah.
All right, Ben. Well, thanks so much and for taking time out of your day to do this interview, and hopefully a lot of you out there can take something from this.
I hope so. Yeah.
All right, so that's the end of the interview. I hope you got something out of this. I know I did. After the interview, actually, I went to go practice fundamentals. I was so excited about it, and I've been revisiting them the last few days. So if you want to hear what Ben sounds like, I'm sharing a link down below in the description, so check it out. And that's it for this video. So I wanted to give you all a heads up that I'm going to be focusing more on other projects that have kind of fallen behind, including an album project, and that should be soon to come, so keep an eye out for that. But this means that basically I'm going to put a little less focus on the YouTube channel and a little more on other projects. So instead of posting every week, I'll be posting once a month. If I can share more posts than that, then I'll go ahead and do that. But I did want to let you all know in case any of you are expecting a video next Friday. Anyway, when I feel caught up, then I'll go ahead and start posting weekly. If you found this video useful or interesting, please like it and share it, and consider subscribing to my channel. Otherwise, we'll see you all next time. Peace.